again, sometimes we think our friends, family, associates don't necessarily care about that time period in your life because again, it may have been so long ago, or you just feel as though that that was an isolated period that most people won't understand. Well, they do. Okay, and this is a period where you can be able to have a filed copy where they can be able to see who you were at that time.
I think another piece that definitely helps with the process, especially when you have active duty transferring out and they're requesting medical records and different things of that nature, make sure you put the updated address on there, right? Because people are relocating so many times and different things like that. And it's like, you might have your mailing address that the VA had prior to, and now the addresses aren't matching up, right? Hello and welcome to the Prepare to Compete podcast, where we talk all things VA benefits, real estate, entrepreneurship, and more. Kenneth Davis, how you feeling today, my brother?
Oh man, I'm wonderful. Just blessed to be here on the #1 Veterans podcast and information. Prepare to Compete is always spewing out that good information. So excited.
Prepare to Compete. We're here with you again today, bringing you a wonderful topic on veterans and benefits and just keeping you well educated and informed, right, on the latest and greatest news, because ultimately we want to make sure that you know what's going on. There's always so many changes, so definitely pay close attention when you see that breaking news headline. We're not just, doing that, just the clickbait. We have some real important things to tell you, which Kenneth has some real important updates for you today.
Yeah, most definitely. Please also make sure that you like, subscribe, click the notification bell, because guess what? It's always going to be more and more information that you're going to need to be well equipped to make sure that you're able to access all the benefits that you deserve, okay? Man, there's been some huge news lately, man. We're talking about the National Personnel Records Center. There's always so much information in regards to how can I get my records? I lost my records. I moved. You know what? I never made a copy of them. The military has never given me my records. I can go on and on about records. Okay. And when we're talking about records, I want you guys to understand that we're talking about service medical records, DD-214s, different things of that nature. Okay. Personnel files. That's what we're mainly concisely speaking about. When we're mainly, and I want you to understand, talking about records is going to be important and why it's going to be important to you. And so let me tell you why it's important to you. Service medical records are going to give you access to a chronological time and period in your life that you may or may not have recognition of. Okay. So when we're talking about that stuff, you're going to be able to identify so many different pinpoint issues that you may have been dealing with in service, right? Let's talk about, again, you may have been storming up that ladder well, slip, fell, hurt your back. Guess what? It's there in your records, right? Also, maybe you were, again, lifting some type of ammunition, slip and may have slipped the disc or something of that nature. Who knows? Hurt your back. You remember it happening, but understanding the details that happened 20 years ago, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be there, right? You don't know. So with that being said, I want you to always understand that these records are going to be very important for you. And why they're going to be very important, that's how you access your benefits. If you don't know what happened to you or how you can identify the landscape that transpired during military service, how are you going to request benefits from the VA? Please. And then that's a real question. Please, because we understand that there are certain conditions that you can be able to request service connection for without your military service medical records. And there's a majority you cannot. Okay. And when I mean majority, I mean about 85% that you cannot. So let's make sure that we understand how we're going to be able to navigate this, because your compelling story, we understand that we all have compelling stories. It's not going to be able to corroborate your actual injury, or Service Connection. As much as we love the truth from you and your testimony, it's just not going to corroborate that storyline.
Absolutely. So I do have a question with that. So now, obviously, your service medical record is very valuable. Now, at what point do you feel like a veteran should request their service medical records? Is only when they're actually applying for benefits, or should they just request that to just even make sure they just have a copy?
I don't mean to answer a question with a question, right? Well, let me ask you a question. Now, when should you ask, or when should you have your ID on you?
At all times.
So always have your records on you. Always have your records available, because you never know, you may need a DD 214. How often do you go to a place that you can gather your DD 214 and they say, hey, do you have your DD 214? Have it handy. Everything can be digitized. Let's digitize it and actually put it into a file that you can be able to have access to, right? So those medical records are very important. They may not always come in handy, such as your service medical records or such as your personnel file. That can be stored a little bit more in a more safe space for later needs. But your DD 214, that's a part of you. That's who you are. That you are a veteran that served in the military, and no one knows that or can identify that without your DD 214. So make sure you have your DD 214 available and handy at bare minimum.
Absolutely. No, that's great stuff there. So you mean to tell me, so anybody that's watching this right now, right, that's a veteran, if they don't have a copy of their service medical records, regardless if they plan on filing a claim, they should probably get on there and request their service medical records like today.
Yes, you should always request your service medical records, no matter what. Obviously, we understand that when we're talking about the VA, but not necessarily the VA, the National Personnel Record Center, because that is the storage facility of your records that is located in St. Louis, Missouri. Oh, it can take 2 months, 3 months, 2 years, we understand the timeliness has been an issue. Well, guess what? They just can't, the National Personnel Record Center have just come out to say that they have cleared their 600,000 request backlog that transpired during COVID time. 600,000. Okay.
So now kind of dissect with me what that means. So they had a backlog since COVID. So if I'm a veteran today and I requested my records, let's say 3 months ago, for example, does that mean I should be receiving my records anytime soon? Or do they have just like a new kind of timeline on when I should be expecting those?
Great question. Well, we understand the VA, the National Personnel Record Center has kind of put out on a consistent basis that it's always been 4 to 6 months, right? That was always the average to be able to obtain your records. They have actually come out to expressly say that they have trimmed that timeline down, okay? So again, they have cleared that 600,000 backlog of requests, they're still receiving about 400,000 per day, okay? That's including service members from the National Guard, Coast Guard, even now the Space Force, Army, Marines, Navy. So they're getting these requests every single day. So deciphering these things could possibly take time.
Hold on, did you say 400,000?
No, 4,000, 4,000. But with those requests coming in, you guys, I want you to understand that they have got, again, many of those requests completed, but they're getting done in a faster manner. They're utilizing technology to their advancement. We understand that there's going to be platforms where you can be able to receive your records digitally soon. Okay, we don't know when that's to come, but again, like we say before, we're always going to be the first ones to make sure that we get your information. Okay, so as soon as that information comes to fruition, we don't want to promise nothing until it's here. We're still dealing with the government, right? So understand. But with that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, and also click the notification bell so we can get that information to you soon. But yeah, I mean, I'm telling you right now, 4,000 requests, okay? It's unfortunate that those requests were coming, I mean, it's not necessarily unfortunate. That just means a lot more veterans are caring about their benefits that are afforded to them. And that's just incredible. And again, it fills my heart with joy that these veterans are making sure that they're getting what they deserve. Okay, because I can attest, as a veteran myself, you deserve it.
So for some that may not know, what is the process of actually going and requesting your service medical records?
Great question. So there is a specific form that you can be able to request your service records, right? What it's called the SF-180. Okay, it's a service medical request form. You go and fill that form out, and you can actually mail that form off to the National Personnel Record Center, or be able to get it to them, fax it off, and so on and so forth. There's also a process where you can go ahead and fill that form out online, but they're still going to make you print it out and send it off to them in some type of fashion. They don't have the digital system to go straight through just yet, right? That's still, there again, technology. Obviously, the private sector is much faster than the government sector, which again, they're working on things. Okay, we always want to see improvements. So that's very good. But that form that you will go ahead and fill out, you make sure you go ahead and complete the form in its full entirety and go ahead and get it to them as soon as possible. All right. So you can be able to check on the website for the nprc.gov. And again, you can be able to check on the status of that request there.
Absolutely. So, okay. So that's very important to know. So we're going to need to know that you're going to essentially need to print and sign that form, right? Because you need a wet signature. And in terms of filling out that form and making sure that they kind of expedite that process, right? Of actually putting that form in, right? Because if it's going to take 4 to 6 months, you want to make sure you're doing everything right. So what are some key items, right, on that form that you want to make sure that you have filled out correctly to ensure that it's going to be processed?
So what I say is basic information, right? Basic information: name, phone number, email address, stuff like that. Also, they're going to be requesting such things as social, birthday. These are all personal information, PII. So be very careful when you're sending this form out. Security is very important. But military service time. Military service time, that is a component I will always make sure that we discuss, right? Because a lot of veterans are not filling out the forms properly. And when they fill out the form, the SF-180 form, what happens is that you request your records, but what happens is you don't have enough information on the form to be able to get your records in. So now their search for your records are futile. Now they can't find your records. They don't know who you are. You're not the only John Doe with a social security entering 1, 2, 3, 4. You're not the only one. So you must provide the information in a detailed fashion so they can be able to get your records to you as soon as possible.
Absolutely. No, that's a good point, right? Because they ask for the service time or with the date. So if you know the approximate dates, definitely fill that in. And they also ask for duty stations, right? Yeah. A lot of individuals may not fill that portion out, which is going to cause some delays. So it already takes 4 to 6 months to receive that. So if you don't want a further delay, check and add that information. If you don't know it offhand, try to recall, look at some documents, do what you can to fill that in.
Well, please fill it in. But I'll tell you right now, and for those who are still watching, guess what? You get a special secret. So I'm going to tell you this. When you are filling out your documentation, make sure you understand that you are going to only fill out the information that is not in par with all the detailed hospitals and medical facilities and such, because what's going to happen is your records request is going to get held up. All right. That one was free. You can call us for the rest. But so with that being said, that is very important because, again, being able to search for these records, it's very hard. If you're a Desert Storm veteran in 1996, right? You're a Desert Storm veteran in 1996. That was over 20 years ago. How am I supposed to find the information of the hospital that you went to in Qatar? Okay, a private facility hospital that you went to Qatar or wherever, whatever specific place that you were stationed. But what I would say is make sure, again, these are the fine nuances you want to kind of navigate and make sure that you're able to get your request off.
Absolutely. No, that's really important there, man, because again, and I've kind of told the story about this before where, sometimes veterans will file their claim and they'll leave it up to the VA to search for their medical records, right? Like you absolutely do not want to do that. You want to submit your medical records with your claim. But if you're ultimately waiting to request your medical records to the tail end of filing your claim, then you're going to be less likely to be able to have all the medical evidence and things that you need. So that it's very important to put the intent to file in, right? The day you think about filing a claim. Same thing with your medical records, even more so, because if you don't have a copy of them, why don't you have a copy? Go ahead and request that.
No, true indeed. It's very important. It's a piece of identifiable information that not only that you need and you should have, but a lot of times service members, sometimes, and again, sometimes we think our friends, family, associates don't necessarily care about that time period in your life because again, it may have been so long ago, or you just feel as though that that was an isolated period that most people won't understand. Well, they do. Okay, and this is a period where you can be able to have a filed copy where they can be able to see who you were at that time. Okay, for the good or bad, because your family members are going to want to make sure that they understand, their mother, their father, their uncle, their brother, their cousin, So make sure you have a copy of those.
Yeah. Make sure you have a copy. And I don't know if you have any other information to provide them with, but I think another piece that definitely helps with the process, especially when you have active duty transferring out and they're requesting medical records and different things of that nature, make sure you put the updated address on there, right? Because people are relocating so many times and different things like that. And it's like, you might have your mailing address that the VA had prior to, and now the addresses aren't matching up, right? So, of course, you're going to hopefully put your most recent address on that form, but it's important to understand it might take 4 to 6 months. You might be moving, right? And different things like that. So they are going to ultimately, at this point, mail you a disc. Well, that disc is going to go to that old address, right? So you want to make sure that everything is updated as much as it possibly can be. And you kind of anticipate the fact that if you are going to be moving, maybe use, your parents' address or something else is going to be a little bit more stable and stationary so that they don't get those medical records that you waited 6 months for sent to an address that you're not at it no longer.
True indeed. That actually brings up a great point, right? They're quoting, this is nothing from Kenneth Davis, right? They're basically saying that they're able to process most requests in a 20-day time frame. A 20-day time frame.
I would love to see it.
4,000 requests that's coming in a day, and they're being able to process it in a 20-day time frame. That's fantastic. Okay, and I'm actually going to proceed to make sure you guys have this information. You can understand it's not coming from Kenneth Davis, but with this information, understandably, there's so many different things that are happening in our nation. Things are changing. When I mean that, people are moving. Right, so you're always needing to go ahead and keep your updated addresses, as Mr. Jones mentioned. But however, there's sensitive subjects such as people are changing names. Okay, people are doing certain things such as transitioning into man, woman, man, certain things of that nature, or different identities are being changed. Well, the military does not know that. They do not know that. So if the military does not know that you have changed your name or you have changed your identity of who you are, again, and it's not saying that that you should be restrictive in who you are at that time period, so on and so forth. No, we're not saying that at all. What we're simply saying is that you need to provide the information of who you were during service time. It's just going to be easier for you during the process. Everything else you can update later. Okay? And that's a secret. Again, I want to make sure I delve off to give you guys. Again, press the like, subscribe, notification bell to get even more.
Absolutely, man. Kenneth, definitely appreciate you for educating the veterans again, once again today. Stay tuned with us. Prepare to compete. We out. Peace.